that, what has that effectively been? It's been, large movers like Dog, which I still think is underperforming, and Dog's my largest bag, and I still think it's underperforming. I think it's massively underperforming. We have Runestone. We have Arsic with Rune Coin. That is massively overperforming. They've had the biggest win, especially over the weekend, and we'll talk about that. Right? We have a few new entrants coming in. So we had Promethean Snapshot occur yesterday. It's hard, dump 75%, pretty much exactly what we were saying before in our ranges. And effectively they should be airdropping it today and or tomorrow, something like that. It should be in these next 24 to 72 hours here. And based off what their pre-rune market cap would be, is that these guys are probably pegged to come in between 125 to 150 million. That's kind of what it would look like based off the previous comparables. And maybe it could be an outlier here, which could be really bullish, right? But we're going to be waiting and seeing on that. The other crazy outlier is Fehu, the rune number one, the one that no one really knows who it belongs to. There's rumors it might be tied to Arsic due to some of the domain registrations, although it could be a coincidence. They've shared a few cryptic things here and there. It's one of those ones where they've won provenance, right? But like at the same time, we still don't know anything. So it's one of those Zero or Valhalla plays. But outside of that, let's also be real. Runes as an overall asset class have massively underperformed, right? Massively underperformed in regard to the market's expectations, right? And the real reason for this is that the expectation of liquidity returns have not been realized, right? We have not gotten a Solana-like pump on a top meme coin by any means, right? The closest we had was Wanko Manko, would be probably the best outlier, which, don't get me wrong, was solid. It was not Gen Wealth, though, right? There's not been a Gen Wealth play realized and or created from Bitcoin, which then begs the question, can Gen Wealth be achieved through runes? It's a very interesting question. And the real reason we ask for that is that, can you do these cold mints and be able to sustain meaningful market caps that can cross 9 figures, if not 10 figures? And right now, it's really difficult, right? And I think this is the bigger challenge here as well, is that, let's be real, Bitcoin isn't built for meme coins. Like, it's the worst if you actually are thinking about it. And if you were hitting it really perfect in the chat, Wild West Crypto says, the real reason is because we onboarded no one. Correct. Most of these guys, we did bring awareness and attention, but we had almost no tooling, a really bad user experience. And let's be honest, the worst part about it is front running. And we'll talk about that here as well in sniping. Makes the experience one of the worst things you possibly can, right? Checkmate hits on it correctly. Can't onboard when blocks randomly clear between 20 to 50 minutes. He's totally right. Even we, as a lot of us who might claim that we're more BTC native, dude, I got caught, right? I wasn't ready for even the halving block. Remember how fast it cleared? It was nuts. We were all watching it live and the halving block just went through. Or yesterday, if you're waiting for Prometheans, like the 4 blocks before Promethean Snapshot cleared in like 5 minutes, 4 blocks in 5 minutes, while we were waiting for like 40 minutes on the previous block. So what it requires you to be so glued to the time window and to realistically mempool. Like, if there's any alpha here, even though it's the worst product experience you could ask for, mempool needs to be open on one screen 24/7, right? Mempool or Ordpool, whichever one you want to prefer to use, something like that, needs to be open 24/7 on a screen, because you really can't act with or without it. We can't really act without it. You always need it. But it's one of the worst user experiences for meme coins, right? And then, liquid gases, it is too complicated, because you know what adds on to this complication is sniping, right? What's one of the worst things, and it's not just about runes, this is also for ordinals here as well. Like, let's be really fucking clear. Holy shit, even when you find a good buy, it doesn't matter, because you're going to get front ran. Someone will snipe that shit out of you, and they'll snipe it to almost zero arbitrage, because they'll take I've seen someone take a $10,000 net profit, and the snipers take that $10,000 net profit all the way down to sub $400, right? It's a massive erosion, right? We're talking 96% net profit erosion, even when you find that play. I had numerous buys taken away from me through snipes. And how awful of an experience can that be? And you could do that on shitcoins too. You could do this here, right? Like, I mean, if you were part of the Rune Punk meta over the weekend, oh, so many of us thought we actually got the rares, but in reality, we only got half the rares, right? We only got the ordinal inscription. We didn't even get the rune etching because we were getting front ran. And this also becomes now the challenge, is that's why mempool needs to stay open. The goal isn't actually, the real alpha is don't mint anymore. The real alpha is watch the mempool for activity, right? Use mempool and BTC tool and a few other secondary tools here, and steal from others. Let them identify your wins, and then you go steal it from them. That is actually the most alpha play you can make, and that's the worst stupid product experience you can ask for, right? It's literally the worst product experience you can have for, because what it is you're stealing wins from people, right? You steal them, you literally punch them at their high, right? You think you made the right snipe, right? I remember, like, I thought I got a quantum cat for a steal. I was like, oh my God, the pump just happened. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I probably just flipped, like, while waiting the block to confirm, I was like, man, I probably just flipped like easily a good, $3,000 on this, or $4,000. I'm feeling good about it. And then, of course, because that ended up being a very large block, the price movement on secondary quantum cats started moving so much as well that Sniper started to realize, oh, fuck, we should steal everything in this block that got acquired below this price point. And I was sniped to death on that. I could have re-sniped it. I actually did re-snipe it once. But they cut the margin down so much that my entry point essentially ended up going 30% higher than what I actually bought. And I didn't even get the asset. That's what killed me. And the worst part is the sniper who got it, and then posted it, and he flipped it for literally, again, less than $500 profit. It was worth it for him to do it, even though it was so narrow profit, because it also has to include the Magic Eden fee. But that's what they're willing to do. And this is why ordinals and runes are stuck now. Because the truth is, even when you find a good play, it's not guaranteed to be yours, right? Like, remember, if we're if we think of this as gold mining, right? Or if we think about this as, hitting the jackpot, what's the worst thing to happen is when you find that massive gold nugget, someone snatches it out of your hand. That's what runes feels like. That's what ordinals feels like. And that's a real large challenge then, because what we're seeing is that a lot of the value is being eroded. But here's also the other thing that is killing the runes market and the ordinals market. It's the fact that money is going out to miners and not getting redeployed in, right? What is the worst thing about runes right now is the runes meta is free mint meta, which means builders are getting zero capital from this here at the moment right now, right? Like, it's literally getting zero builder value right now, right? Because all of it is going into miners. It's just these fees. Thus far, if you calculate all the fees that have been taken since halving, I think it's somewhere close to around $70 million dollars in fees, right? None of that went to builders. That's one way out. We have taken such a large amount of our liquidity out and positioned it into the hands of miners with the hopes that we were going to get 5x, 10x, 100x's on runes, but none of that realized. So what has ended up happening is that we've actually taken more liquidity out of this ecosystem than creating it to a certain extent. And this creates another larger challenge then, is that, okay, well, users, because the onboarding and the product experience is the worst, and then we're not even funding builders effectively here because we're just giving it to miners. Like, what the hell is going to actually happen? Who's going to scale and build anything of real context and real value? The truth is, it's a very small group of people that even have a chance at attempting this. And this feels like the larger challenge right now of why runes feels pretty bearish for a lot of us. And don't get me wrong, there's been short-term wins, but even those short-term wins get eroded really quickly, as mentioned, right? Rune punks. Shout out Private Identity in our server. He pointed that to us so early. I think there was like only 10 or 20 rune punks that had been minted at that point or inscribed at that point. And the great thing is a ton of people in this community were able to get in really, really, really early and make profit, right? A few of you sold. I think Quota sold for like 0.03 BTC on one of his rares that he had. And a few others sold for 0.02, 0.025. I mean, great. You're getting $1,000 wins, multi-thousand weekend, but that window was very short term. A lot of us got front ran on those deals, as I was talking about earlier. So we didn't even get the rune and or the inscription. You only got one or the other. In most cases, you got the inscription. If you're lucky and didn't get front run, you get both, the etch actually as well. And what's crazy is that then someone indexed it on Magic Eden, but they were only indexing the ordinals, not the runes. So then it created another fracture in the market because it was like, oh, what are we actually buying? Do we want the rune or do we want the ordinal asset that came with the etch? So long story short, the meta died pretty much immediately. Everyone just started, killing each other, right? Because no one even knew what was the real value and no one even knew how to use the tech correctly. And the marketplace didn't even really assemble it correctly either, even though this was a creator base who submitted this. But this is actually the larger challenge, right? Is that what we end up realizing is we don't even give enough room for any of these tokens to run. But there are bullish elements. As I talk about all this bearishness, let's talk about a little bit of joy. A little bit of the joy still remains is that because this market is so fundamentally flawed, you almost need to always go back to the basics, right? And this is kind of what I talk about the fundamentals of Bitcoins. It's been early provenance continues to sustain, right? What it essentially is that I still believe that if you want to continue to participate in runes, you should be allocating sub 10 runes primarily with some exposure to sub 100 runes that are solid, like pre-rune builder communities. And what you really want to over optimize for is over optimize for teams that are well funded and that are ordinal OGs, meaning that they truly were building for ordinals first. This is probably where you're going to see more of the alpha of what runes actually break out. I still believe runes have a 10x from here, right? I still believe there is upside here, but the real upside for that, to be honest, is Binance. That's what we're waiting on. We did get OKX though this weekend, and that was what was really bullish. And one of the biggest news is that look what OKX has done on regard to ARSIC. ARSIC officially becomes the first token to be listed on OKX. ARSIC also does the partnership with Memeland to make it one of the largest unique holders tokens or runes in BTC world. It is the largest, I believe, now, which is amazing in terms of unique holders. It brought in a new buyer base. It did onboard users in a very meaningful way, and they've been rewarded in the last, I don't know, 36 hours. It's up around 40%, almost at a 300 million market cap, currently sitting at 289 million here at the moment. It is doing the most trades. It is doing the most volume. And the real reason for this is that there's a lot of conviction that these are OGs who are truly building for Bitcoin first. And this has been one of the major theses that we've been telling you guys as well. Bag, RSIC being one of the largest movers over the weekend. If you had just rotated your Prometheans post snapshot into RSIC, which a lot of this community ended up doing, it was probably one of the most profitable plays that you could have done, right? And this is where you also want to see is that RSIC now looks like one of the more bullish contenders. And this is really great because we still have the largest catalyst. OKX is great. OKX is tier 2. It is probably the best tier 2 and probably the only tier 2. You could maybe group a few others in there if you want, but I loosely give it its own tier 2 category. I want to say when Binance comes, it is 10x bigger, right? It really is 10x bigger. And I think that's where is probably the most meaningful catalyst from here. But ALG asks, well, what after Binance? Like, you don't think Rune should have another type of value than the monetary trading one? My worry is that Runes are almost ahead of the rest of the infrastructure, right? And because of that, I don't see any real clear catalyst beyond Binance. The truth is that it doesn't meet the meme coin narrative, right? Let's be very honest. Do you really want to do meme coin trading in short-term exits and entries on BTC? Fuck no, right? It's like it literally is not the place you want to be, and no one else wants to be, right? So that becomes like challenge number one, is that we're probably not built for a meme coin industry. Then the second problem comes in on Runes is that, okay, is it a utility coin? Well, it's a pretty bearish sign when the builder tells you, hey, don't build any utility on this. Casey says anyone who promises utility is lying to you. Probably should give you all the answers you want, right? I'm not saying that people are going to all 100% listen, but you can see kind of the challenge you come. But here's the other reason why utility doesn't work, right? Is that utility tokens here need to have a little bit more depth and value. And this becomes then the third challenge is then, can this be a protocol token? And the answer is honestly no, because there's no smart contracts, right? Because of the lack of functionality here, this is not going to be the token that primarily protocols will actually be scaling on unless they want to treat it purely as a traded stock. Because if you think about it, that's kind of all you could do with stocks as well. Like, if you really think about the meme coin infrastructure that has been built within Runes, it is rudimentary, like the exact same thing as the stock market of what you can trade, right? And this is actually like the larger challenge here is that, okay, we can do that, but why would you? Why would you choose a protocol that has almost no other functionality as Runes compared to ones that will adopt smart contract functionality? Almost all protocols will want to go to that, right? Like, you can, like, right now, if you think about it, do you know how insane it is that there's like not a way to stake Runes right now? Right? The only thing we have right now to like qualify for staking is snapshots. Like, you realize how crazy that is? We're in a snapshot era of technology still. Like, we don't have any other way outside of screen capturing the ownership of wallets on this date versus another date and then creating a qualifying list. That is the most sophisticated this technology is at the moment right now for allocations. I mean, look at this. Look how inefficient the the Rune to airdrop, right? Ordinal Rune to airdrop play is right now, right? Like, the crazy thing is Prometheans just nuke their market cap on paper because the second asset class isn't live. All you just saw was Prometheans go from 0.09 down to 0.02, and the second asset class isn't even there yet because they now have to do an airdrop. Like, they actually have to go execute this. So they have eroded 80%, 75% of their market cap. And now, I'm not saying it's eroded forever, but that's how it is. And we're now waiting for that market cap to get reestablished. Dude, I think that's one of the major reasons why Rune's market cap got crushed, right? Is that after the snapshot, it took so many days to come out and no one knew how to price it that everyone forgot what the actual market cap was. Imagine if they actually did an immediate airdrop of Runes right then and there, right, to the users right when the snapshot occurred. I think you get a very different market cap for that here as well. And this is kind of like the other challenge here, right? Is that people don't want staking, right? And Tone Wolf hits out of this, right? Boyan tweeted out to stake Lobo on Merlin and it got blasted, right, for suggesting it. Because the truth is people don't want non-custodial actions, right? Like, they don't want to give out their custody of their ownership of their assets to all these places. And a lot of people who stake Merlin got wrecked. Like, to be honest, Merlin did not pay out a token a lot of people were expecting. And more importantly, I still don't even know how they've allocated the rules and everything. I'm very curious to know how that all played out as well too. It's kind of a insane scenario of how it's playing out, that this market isn't even utilizing the only fundamental tools we have, which would be staking, right? And if we don't want this, then what else do we have? We have the world's shittiest token ecosystem. That's the honest truth, right? If this is only going to be for meme coins, we are literally the dumbest meme coin platform out there. It is more expensive. It is the worst UI. It is the worst tooling. It is the worst infrastructure. It is the worst on everything on that front. So, what does this actually then in reality mean? Is that, well, if anything, the Runestone reality is hitting faster than I thought. I already knew a lot of this. I've always told you Runestone was a pit stop, right? But holy fuck, does this feel like the shortest pit stop we've ever gotten to, because we didn't even get the 10x's or the 100x's that we were hoping for, right? Like, what is this actually going to be? Is this a pit stop that is meaningful or not? And what we're kind of running into as a general problem now is realizing, okay, it was a pit stop, but we didn't refuel our bags. If anything, our bags got fucking wrecked in a lot of ways, unless you're in the top pre-runes, right? Like, at least this larger challenge, then okay, then is there any hope for these mid-cap runes? And I'm not sure anymore. Like, to be very honest, I think a lot of these cap runes are going to struggle. I think, again, a few will find a way to break out, but let's just look at the few things we're looking at these charts. Let's look at market caps here right now. So if we actually look at these market caps, and it's interesting on how they decide what goes in here on top market caps, because like they don't even order it correctly. They're showing it the market cap of the tradable or non pre-mine, potentially, but like I'm sorting this by market cap here, and it's funny, they don't show Fehu at number one. I'm not sure how they're doing this. So this is kind of a little bit of a weird thing. At least I'm running in with Magic Eden on runes. It doesn't really even short this stuff correctly. So let's just talk about this really quickly though, where we're looking at market cap. So like we have two outliers right now, right? And that's Dog and Arsic at the moment right now. As I mentioned, I think Dog is massively underperforming and continues to be bearish, unfortunately. I'm not exiting out of my position. I'm still holding all of my position on Dog. It's just been a little bit more bearish than I hope. But I still like the overall volume that it's generating. It clearly means that this is the right... It's still worthy of holding on the belief of Binance. But what I should have done, if I had more conviction, is that I shouldn't have made Dog my number one. I should have clearly made Arsic my number one, right? I was expecting Dog to be around 800 million at this point, right? It should have been right around $1 billion. So Dog is underperformed by 50%. I was expecting Arsic to be around 250 to 300 million. This is kind of the area I wanted. And it's going to actually blast by that if it continues to keep this kind of bullish notion. And that felt right. The only reason I felt this was going to struggle because this was less meme oriented. It is more of a developer token, which is very interesting. It's actually it's a counter narrative to almost all the other tokens there. It's why I like it, but I also thought that's why I had a little bit of risk. But clearly, Arsic, currently the leader and the winner because it is acting, but more importantly, it has this advantage that they can actually work with secondary exchanges or these centralized exchanges and actually give them allocation of tokens in any way to make sure that they could actually either fund that listing or, of course, effectively allow for trades. While Dog is kind of like, hey, we're getting volume, don't forget about us. You should probably add us in, even though we can't give you any incentives, benefits, or reasons to do so outside of our volume. And I think this is kind of what makes Dog now a little bit more bearish. We have to wait until someone catches on. And the bet on Dog is a bet that Binance will come. That's really what it is, right? Like, this is really kind of the important thing is a lot of people are really aiming for Binance to be the savior. If Binance does become a savior, I do expect pretty much all of these, like I believe the entire Rune market 3x's to 5x's, right? The entire total volume. right? And I think, of course, majority of that is going to go into sub 10 runes. But let's kind of keep going down the list. We kind of see a few things. We see Satoshi Nakamoto continue its decline. Again, this is the challenge. Even though it's a sub 10 rune, it's the question is, do people want to meme shit? Right now, people don't want to meme shit here. Don't care about meme tokens here. It's kind of struggling because they really don't have any other value to offer. Lobo the Wolf Pup continues to bleed, as we talked about. This feels like a poor man's version of Dog. If you have exposure here, it feels way better to have that exposure at least on the parent, right? Lobo's entire audience and community is pretty much runestone holders. And again, if you were bullish runestone holder, the likelihood of you saying, like, I'm more bullish on Lobo than I am on Dog is very low. It's probably the exact other way. People are going to be way more bullish on Dog when it comes to Lobo, and we continue to see that as it continues to massively drop in price here at the moment right now. You're seeing this is struggling to build its own audience, even though it's sub 10. And the real reason is that it's not an original play. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Dog's that original either, but it is the first one there before them, and Lobo's kind of being built, especially because they bought Runestone, the original Runestone, for 8 BTC. So this has always felt like a neutral, if not negative, trade, and it continues to trend negatively, unfortunately, here as well. We have Fehu. Like, let's keep it real. This is still the most degenerate play out there. I do not recommend it, but I have grabbed it as a small bag. I'm actually utilizing it to season wallets, as I've recommended, meaning that I'm just grabbing like bags of 15 to 25 packs and buying them on new wallets, just because it's an easy way to season. It's generally cheap. Is it actually going to go anywhere? Who the hell knows? Expect it to be zero, but it is the one that can have Valhalla potential. I don't recommend it as a real trade, as a primary position in your portfolio. It's too degen for that, and it's too unknown for that. And right now, that's not worth doing that here in Runes at the moment right now. And yeah, this market cap's fake, right? You know, it's 99% pre-mine. So we actually think about this. The real valuation of this is, you know, real market cap of this is 29 million, right? Of tradable market cap. That's probably the better way of saying this at the moment right now, right? While Arsic is truly closer to around like 270 million, assuming the 10% to devs. Well, Dog is true. Dog is 376 million. There's no allocation, which I still love the ethos of Dog there. But essentially, right, we're seeing declines on everything. Wanko Manko, still declining. Anarchor Kappa still kind of holding here, but still very small market caps. And everything else is just declining. Even, you know, meme economics continues to be a very small one. Koala and Impala continues to be a very small one. There's been a little bit of movement on Baoking. Or I don't know how to pronounce that correctly. I apologize to all of our Chinese community members. But, you know, very curious to see how this will play out, mainly because it has brought some activity to the Asian community. See, it's selling very little quantity, so it's nothing huge volume yet. Outside of that, what are we trying to see? You know, nothing's really massively interesting right now. Everything is kind of there. And that's kind of like an important thing to. There are a few builders, even Gob we're looking at is around a 6 million market cap, correct? Runes X, I don't think this market cap's correct, but I want to curious to see where this is. You know, everything else is kind of like sub 1 million or sub 5 million. And this is kind of the important thing to recognize, is that the likelihood of a 5 million token going to 100 million is much harder here on Bitcoin than any other chain. I don't really expect that to be the case. And there's also good reason to start considering, should I be rotating my rune bag into something else? But here's the other challenge as I talk about that here as well, right? Is that when we look at this rune bag, right, where could you even rotate to at the moment right now? Because let me be very clear, the ordinal market is hot trash as well as we look into this, right? There is very little. We have Bitcoin puppets now under 0.3. They're at 0.278. Node monkeys 0.34. OMB now under 0.4 at 0.398. Quantum Cat still holding. They're probably one of the more bullish, mainly because they are working on an L2 and a tech. If there is an ordinal play, it still is Quantum Cats, in my opinion. Bitcoin Shroom still holding around 2 BTC. I know that number seems big, but not that great for a sub 1,000 Rune, to be very honest. You would have assumed this price point would have moved a little bit more here. But as you look at it, there's not really a lot of good entries. Really, if there is going to be plays, it's now new mints are going to become the next thing on ordinals, in my opinion, because gas fees are now available, right? Like, that's the only thing we want to ensure is that I think what we've seen is that there's nothing going to be so bullish that anyone's going to do an open mint where it's going to crush, right, and crush all of the fees in this market, right? And because of that, it means that new ordinal mints are going to have a little bit more play, which I think could be really bullish as we kind of come into this market here as well. It allows these asset classes, but am I really rotating into any other ordinal plays right now? Kind of tough. It really is really, really tough. So this is kind of why I'm excited about where this market's going to be going. But at the same time, I'll be very honest, I don't really see myself rotating into ordinals anytime soon. I'm still keeping my bag in runes, in top sub 10 runes, and then now keeping my eye on the next emerging mid-market caps. So when I say mid-market caps, I think there's still a lot of interesting plays. Pups has now kind of turned into a mid-market cap as they've kind of declined. They're probably the strongest mid-market cap, so I'd really be keeping an eye to see how will that move, and how will that play, especially as they still have an ordinal-based asset out here as well in the market. But the other stuff that I'd be really keeping an eye out on as the market keeps scaling here too is recognizing that, can Tiny Vikings, can Sigma, can any of these other guys make a meaningful run of attention and capture to take their market cap from a 5 million or 10 million market cap up to somewhere around 25 to 50 million? That's kind of the more realistic stuff. You're not really betting on anyone breaking through 9 figures at this point. I really don't think that's the play anymore. The play is finding sub 1 millions that are trying to get to 10 to 25 million, or sub 10 million that you believe could get to 25 to 50. That's kind of really where those plays will be. But I think just generally, I think when we look at the overall sentiment, the likelihood of leaps are not going to be coming from smaller plays, right? And this is kind of the only other thing is that we now need to keep a much larger eye on these bigger plays. So the only new entrant that is essentially coming out into this market now is going to be Prometheans, or the decentralized token. So with Prometheans, this will be interesting. They do have a relationship with OKX, so we do know that they're going to be listed there, which is somewhat meaningful. That is R6 advantage here as well. A lot of people believe Prometheans and RSIC are similar market caps. I do not believe that's the case. I believe RSIC is a significant step ahead of Prometheans. So there are those who are using comps on where Prometheans market cap may be. And this is kind of where the game is going to, essentially, this is where you get to make some plays. Right now, though, what we've historically seen is that your ordinal market cap, when converted to runes, sometimes increases between 25 to 75% in value, right? But in certain cases, we see it to actually be underwater. And in one of those cases here at the moment right now, Dog is underwater from its ordinal base play. Even when you consider its ordinal residual value, what it was at peak snapshot, it is generally neutral. It's not that positive play, while RSIC has done really well. So the question is where will the buy pressure on Prometheans come? And I actually think Prometheans has made a couple mistakes recently that I know could look bullish externally, but I think might be bearish in the end. And the thing is that they've started to add even more projects into their snapshots, right? So they did the Promethean airdrop. Now they're also doing token drop to other communities. And I think the worry here is that they're now giving, don't get me wrong, a small piece to all these secondary communities. But the sentiment for these guys are, man, if I got a Prometheans, I would have got $5,000, $6,000. Instead, I only got $200 of a token or something like that. I think they're going to be more inclined to cheat that stuff and sell that stuff relatively quickly into any pump. The good thing is that it's still going to be a minor percentage, but the question now begs is where will the other buy pressure come from when you're already seeing Arsic and Dog kind of take a little bit of a leadership play on that? And the other question that really is going to beg is, does Prometheans have any other value that is quote unquote utility oriented? And whether or not the ordinal market's going to care about that. And that's actually going to be a very interesting thing because I think Prometheans is still an ETH based project that has noted nothing about its ordinal intent thus far, which is fascinating. It's a very cool, total new play. But the question that begs is what will their expected market cap be? So a lot are saying like 250 million or 300 million, right? In that kind of way. What I really do think the real market cap of Prometheans is going to be somewhere between 125 and 150. That's what I believe based off where we're seeing this. And the question will be is there going to be another catalyst? I think one of the things that Prometheans has already done is that they've used a few of their catalysts when it was an ordinal asset. So they've already told us about OKX. So OKX is already kind of priced in, right? So if that's the case, what other catalysts can they have post airdrop? That's to be determined. And this is where it's clearly Prometheans, in my eyes, is a very strong tier 2 with the potential to become a tier 1 because it has rune number 2. That's kind of its real big opportunity. But at the same time, as we look around, what we realize is, man, there's not a lot of liquidity to slosh around on runes. So if you're coming in, you better hope that you're a primary token, or people will use your token as liquidity to pad their primary positions. And I'm not sure how many ordinal OGs believe Promethean should be a top 3 in their bag. And that's going to be really going to be the determining factor on how well Prometheans is going to do. But I think Prometheans is actually getting a little bit front run by Arsic. Arsic took OKX as the number 1 token to be listed, the first token to be listed on OKX. They've already distributed the airdrop. They already got meme land and got the widest holder user base, already at 6-figure unique users. And they got a lot of that buy pressure over the weekend and coming into Monday and Tuesday. And that's where I think, it's going to be really interesting on how many people are willing to give. I think if I'm in Prometheans and in decentralized shoes, my goal would be to try to get all the people who own Dog to rotate into them. I don't know what the sales pitch needs to be for that, but that's the largest opportunity. I think most Dog holders are not strongly bullish on what they're holding. Even for me, as someone who's believed Dog since day one, buying on whales over the counter at $400, like I've been very, very bullish. But still the larger challenge now is, can a meme coin actually break through on ordinals and Bitcoin? And I think a lot of people are losing conviction on that. I'm curious, do any of you believe that there will be another new $1 billion Rune token that is not done through a pre-Rune play? Like that wasn't tied to a pre-Rune? Like I do believe Dog, Arsic, have a very mean chance to get to $1 billion. But I don't know if anyone else I could even say. And that's, I'm saying maybe in the next, let's say next 3 months. I'll give a slightly larger time frame. In the next 3 months, do we believe a new entrant could come in and drop $1 billion token? I'm not sure, right? And that's kind of like crazy. And this is kind of like a very interesting element of how bearish it's gotten. And the reason why it's gotten bearish is that we've all tried it as users and we all hate it as users. And I agree, Steryl's right. Like there always is a chance for $1 billion token if BTC pumps, right? You're absolutely right. Like this could always change the narrative here. But if we're actually looking at this, right, like I don't think the token's going to be on runes. I think the next $1 billion tokens are going to be on a different meta protocol. And this is actually what actually puts a smile on my face. Because there was almost no advantages in getting early on runes unless you're pre-runes or over-the-counter plays. That was pretty much it, and even that was fairly minimal. But if we believe there's going to be more meta protocols, that means that there's going to be more farming opportunities, more ways for us to find allocations and hopefully find new builders deploying in a very compelling way. And that makes all of our farming vision so much more exciting. So as we kind of wrap up and kind of look at pre-runes and post-runes, there are still some interesting catalysts remaining. I think the biggest catalysts remaining are going to be when Binance. I think Binance has to make a play in the next 2 weeks. I'd be really surprised if it takes longer than that. But aside from that, what we're seeing is that I don't expect any more new users coming in. I don't really expect a meaningful influx of new users where we 3x the amount of unique users and wallets that are trading on this stuff. I think Rune just kind of lost its luster, right? It wasn't as beautiful as people would have hoped. And when faced the reality and when facing the amount of tasks and work that you need to do to truly get great Bitcoin exposure and be able to profit off that, it is too much work for 99% of people at the moment right now. So that is a bullish and a bearish thing. Bearish in the short term, bullish in the long term. It means that this becomes another clear hurdle of where Bitcoin infrastructure needs to get better, and those who will be there to profit in that first wave of infrastructure is going to be a much smaller user base, which means that there should be more yield and rewards for us who are still bullish on the overall market. And we'll talk about that here shortly. Outside of that, we saw one of the best pre-rune launch books. It's effectively Arsic. Arsic is the only one playing the pre-rune launch book correctly. They've done token 1. They have value on token 2. And what do I mean? How correct they're doing? Look at the residual value of Meta Protocol. It's around 0.05. That's nuts. They've already done an airdrop snapshot, and they are so bullish on token 2 that it is holding 50% of its residual value. This is nuts. It's actually more than 50% of its residual value. At snapshot, I believe this was around 0.08, if I remember correctly. I have to go look at my notes again and the timestamps. But this is holding like 60, 75% potentially, 60 to 65% of its residual value. Amazing. They are playing it right because the people now are bullish on Rune 21, which they also own for Season 2. They're also bullish on the fact that Arsic did a pre-Rune partnership to bring on another 30, 40,000 unique holders with the largest ETH token holders, right? Really bullish on that front as well. And it's the ETH token holders who have no expectations of utility, right? In the world of memes, right? In the world of meme coin and meme world, right? How they've been doing it, it's quite perfect here as well, right? I think separately, right, the other reason why you give Arsic the play is that they're also playing the degen game correctly in terms of getting listings first. They're the first to get OKX listed as a tradable token. That is super bullish. Not only are they working on those relationships there, they're also showcasing that they are playing to win it by doing it with actions. There's no one over pumping Arsic out there, which is great. The closest you have is Rune Dev, barely says anything about it. I mean, it's kind of nuts how well it's playing out. So give Arsic credit, right? Arsic continues to be one of the stronger plays in this market. And the hilarious part is that it's probably the least meme coin out of all of the sub 10 runes. It is one that is more of a utility token, which I think is really fascinating. So we're going to really, really try to highlight some of these larger plays. But the great thing then, this means as this market still shakes out and continues to be a little slow, it means that there's plenty of opportunity on the protocol needs that are coming that hopefully we will have a chance to farm. So as we kind of look at that, I know a few of you might be a little disappointed. We didn't hit our liquidity returns, maybe our ROI targets here potentially, but just realize all of this stuff is about to flip over into our favor because it means we need more infrastructure. And when it means we need more infrastructure, it means they need more users. When they need more users, it means that they need to incentivize with more airdrops, oh my goodness, it will continue to come back to farmers. Farming protocols will 100% be the play. It's as clear as day as the last 9 days have played out. And I actually love it because I'm not really spending too much time on anything else, right? I've got my long term rune bags, I've got my Arsic, my dog. I'll let you guys know when I decide to finally sell out a dog. Every day I get a little bit closer. I should have definitely yeeted all dog for Arsic over the weekend. I consider it, but I am still holding on to my thesis, right? I'm gonna keep Arsic, dog, and Fehu until Binance. I'm gonna keep Fehu forever. On whatever that weird airdrop, I'm along for that Fehu journey. It's worth zero. Expect it to be worth zero. If you want a little bit of degen, just open up a new farming wallet, drop that into that, buy a little Fehu on that, and then start seasoning up that for mainnet wallet plays because that will be a really bullish thing long term. You are no farming wallets are going to hold Fehu. That's actually like the big alpha, right? If no farming wallets hold Fehu, then you're good. You won't run into Sybil issues as long as you keep all the other rules in play. So that's the only reason why I'm also continuing to accumulate Fehu. I think there are other meaningful reasons on why you might want to consider Prometheans. There's other reasons why you may want to consider pups. There may be reasons you want to consider magic internet money. I have very small positions in all of those, to be very honest. I have zero in magic internet money. I think they've just kind of lost that narrative, unfortunately. I've really do like what pups as a memes can be, but I don't like how split they are with Solana and an Ordinal and a BRC20. I'm curious to see how this fuse goes and whether or not the buy pressure holds, but it's been bleeding quite a bit. I'm not sure if it's a buy opportunity, but remember, people are bullish that they might be the Binance play, which would be really interesting. Separately, the only other thing I would tell you is that I'm still holding all these mid caps. And I don't know what's going to happen, these micro caps, right? I don't know what Tiny Vikings is going to bring. I don't know what Sigma is going to bring. I don't know any of these. But my conviction still remains I'm holding them. I'm holding them, and most likely my play with these micro caps is whatever like the most degen plays they offer me, right? Like sacrifices and stuff. I'm going to do them. I'm going to just jeet all my stuff into the sacrifices, see what kind of crazy speculative top return I'll get, or expect to get zero from them. That's kind of how I'm currently playing this market. But in the reality, what is the actual biggest thing I'm doing? I am farming like no other. I am farming every single day, right? And that is still the most important play here. It's the only thing I have conviction on. And the real reason I only have conviction, I know how bad the UX is. And I know how much the DeFi protocols will unlock. And I know how big these L2 opportunities are going to be. So this is kind of where we could shift, and we'll spend about 30 minutes talking about farming here and understanding the protocols. But more specifically, we're going to talk about a few that I think are bullish across a few verticals, and that is going to be quantum cats. And that's probably the one that is most relevant here today, as they actually have a task going out right now for their upcoming L2. And there's something pretty interesting here. It's called Cat VM. We're going to talk a little bit about what they're doing. But separately, what I am going to also talk to you guys about is that it is getting ready to have wallets and assets to have wallets with assets already structured and liquidity structured for mainnet farming plays. Mainnet farming plays are coming. It's going to get a little bit expensive, but we're going to show you where it's going to be worth it. But the other great thing is we're going to see more testnet plays. And that's also bullish for all of us here because it means that the cost structure here is going to be way lower for us to be able to enter, which is awesome, including Cat VM here as well. So let's talk a little bit about, why farming is going to get bullish from here. Well, there's 3 reasons why farming gets bullish if we're looking at our thesis. Like thesis number 1, we need way more infrastructure on Bitcoin. This is the clearest reason why you should be farming. We need hundreds more protocols, like way better protocols than what we have here day. And we're such at an infancy stage with the tech that it allows for rich ecosystems to develop. And that leads to like bullish sentiment number one. The other reason why farming is the future is the fact that literally we're starting right now. It's like day zero, right? You could maybe say it's day 7 out of 1,000 days in our farming journey right now, right? Like if we look at the current constructs, there's been very few campaigns that have gone out. There have been very few airdrops that have gone out, and there's been very few meta protocols and tier 1 protocols that have been scaled and developed post testnet. They haven't really got to that level yet. So we have this huge conviction that everything is going to be coming here and more, right? Which leads us to also then have a bullish sentiment of knowing that we could create wallets now and get full credit on their history, right? It's the same ability to go back to ETH in 2019. This is the same play we have right now, right? This is like ETH 2019, 2020 we are in regard to Bitcoin. If I could have gone back to ETH 2019, 2020 with 50 wallets and using just half of my brain cells, right, in my mind, right? You did not have to be a genius to figure this out. If you were doing this with 50 wallets, you would have made close to around $3.5 to $4 million, right? Correctly, if you did this correctly, starting in 2019, 2020. Those are the numbers that add up, which is nuts. Am I saying that this is going to absolutely be the exact same on Bitcoin? We can't expect 1-to-1, but what we should understand is the comparables here to get confident. Bitcoin is the larger market cap. Bitcoin has significant amount of capital already invested. There is venture capital that is following. There is more protocols that are coming. If you farm this correctly with even 20 wallets or 10 wallets, you could be looking at multiple 6-figure payouts along the way. All right, look at this. Uniswap airdropped $6 billion. Uniswap, $6 billion. Starknet airdropped billions of dollars. Arbitrum, billions of dollars. Guys, these are numerous protocols, numerous L2s, numerous infrastructure plays that are all providing huge incentives along the way. And what we now need to figure out is how are they structuring them? How are these going to be prioritized and where do we place our bets? Because the other thing that you're going to see is that it's going to be like a flea market to start where everyone is going to be telling you like you should be going and our magic beans, or you should be farming this magical plant. You should be farming this magical thing, right? Effectively, what you're going to realize is you have to choose intelligently what you're optimizing your bigger plays for. Because the way farming essentially is going to work is that you're going to have exposure to 10 or 20 protocols. But of those, let's say 20, only 3 or 4 are going to be in your primary day one or daily rotations, while the rest will be kind of secondary or weekly or monthly rotational plays. And the real reason is that you could look at how the largest airdrops have played out historically before. So, for example, let me grab this really quickly. Where did I put this? There we go. This is from CoinGecko. This just shows. Can I copy this image? No, it's not an image. Hold. Just take this. Give me just a second. Actually, let me grab all the ones that were 100 million. Okay. So this is still missing a few, but it'll give us a good understanding of what we can see. And not all of these are farmable protocols. I want to be very. But I'm going to drop this here real quick. So I'm going to share this wonderful screenshot here with you guys. These are, at the time of airdrop, the value of all the tokens and airdrop campaigns that have occurred on other chains, specifically Ethereum here. And these are some pretty insane numbers across the board. Uniswap being the largest at 6.4 billion. DYDX at 2 billion. ApeCoin is great at 3.5, but that required you to be a holder. So I view that a little bit differently, like in regard to the massive airdrop value, or you needed a KYC to get a little bit of value there as well too on ApeCoin, which wasn't bad, but it was limited on how much you could actually get due to KYC protocols, right? But you could go further down this list and you just start seeing pretty insane numbers, right? And that's kind of the bullish sentiment here, right? And this is huge. Yeah, Wormhole cooked as well. This is not Wormhole and Starknet are missing here because this only shows from 2023 and before, right? And this is kind of nuts, right? And this is kind of where when you look at this, right, you see different cycles of opportunities that will continue to present. And not all of these numbers are perfectly clear. We're going to actually walk you guys through each of these numbers of where these airdrops were. But for example, right, let's go look at, the Starknet. How big was the Starknet airdrop, right? It's a very interesting thing when you look at some of the ones that even happened in this calendar year, right? What's crazy is Starknet initiated the distribution of 728 million tokens, and they were roughly trading at $1.80 or $2 at one point. So it was around $1.3 billion for Starknet's airdrop. And then the Wormhole airdrop was nuts, right? How big was the Wormhole airdrop? Wormhole airdrop created a 3 billion valuation and created over 800 million worth of its tokens airdrop to select users. Like, it was crazy how much were coming just in this, and ended up being closer to around $1.4 billion airdrop, which is pretty nuts. So this is kind of where it is, and what you also saw is then Wormhole also started trading quite a bit, really nicely on secondary as well. It slid initially, but what you can see is that they gave a massive amount of value out, right? And there's tons of these things here as well as you look at this market that are coming, right? Which is massive, massive, massive. Anchor Crab, yeah, he says, oh, it's really hard to compare ETH, a really wide ecosystem, and BTC is a bit different, but its market cap is way bigger. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, you can't compare these one to one. That's what you want to understand. These are the best comparables we have. So you're trying to understand a way to roughly size this market, right? And that's essentially what we have here, right? And this is kind of, you'll realize this list is only 2023. It did not include Dimension. It didn't include Starknet. It didn't include Wormhole on this list. And those are all roughly high 9 figures, if not 10-figure airdrops as well. And that's where you want to see the bullishness, is that BTC has even less infrastructure and it needs to build all of these things. What you should get bullish on is that, look, what was the largest airdrop? It was a swap protocol. Uniswap did the largest thing. What is Modo trying to be? They're trying to be Uniswap on Bitcoin, right? Like, that's why Modo is very interesting, specifically on CBRC20 with smart tokens in their kind of vision here as well. And that's kind of where it gets really exciting when you see that all of these verticals are going to be huge. You'll see L2s like Starknet, Optimism. I mean, this doesn't even include earlier airdrops. Like, let's look at how big was the Arbitrum, the Immutable X airdrop, right? How big was the Mutable X airdrop? Oh, did anyone give a final number? They're not showing me an easy, clean number here. I'm gonna have to go actually do the math on the IMX airdrop here as well. And this is kind of where it's nuts, right? Is that there's so much opportunity here as you play, but we don't know which one to be the winner. What I really want you guys to recognize is here. Let me bring that same list here. This is the CoinGecko list. I'll drop the link here, and then let me show you. Let me also share it on my screen. Give me just a second. Sorry. Right. Essentially, when we're looking at these airdrops, right? Essentially, these airdrops ended up giving around $26 billion in free money when we're looking at these numbers. It's pretty nuts when you're looking at these details here at the moment right now. And this is kind of why when you realize for different like eras and years here as well. So right, Uniswap went all the way back to 2020, right? You had a few of these other ones come in 2021. They even put Loot on here, which was interesting. You had Optimism, ApeCoin here in 2022. You could see the plays in Arbitrum in 2023. It doesn't even have 2024 plays, which have been already meaningful as well. And this is kind of why you want to get pretty excited is that it continues to scale. But let me look at the numbers here. What's great is that you can see is that those first 3 years of being early to their protocol are really where that wealth is being accumulated, right? You're seeing $21 billion worth of airdrops here going to, a very small amount of users, right? Like, let's say 21 billion divided by, I don't know, let's be nice and say there were actually only 100,000 unique users. Oops, 21 billion divided by 100,000, right? You look at it, it's $210,000 per unique user of value, right? During those 3 years, right? It's quite an insane amount of numbers here. Again, this is also showcasing you could do multi wallets and multi airdrops here as well. And this is where you want to get bullish on is that we're pretty much, and when we go look at this chart, we're right here. We're in 2020. We're right here where these are the biggest eras of token airdrops will occur over the next 24 months. 100% will be happening here in the next 24 months. The question is, how big will it be? Right? Will it be as big as Ethereum? Will it be half as big as Ethereum? Or will it be 2x, 3x larger than Ethereum? That's kind of the unknown. But even if it's half the size of Ethereum, it's going to be massive, right? If it matches the size of Ethereum, it's going to be super massive. And if it ends up being a 2x or 3x larger than Ethereum as it correlates to its actual true market cap, right? This will be true gen wealth, right? And this is what I want you guys to start realizing. We are as early as it comes to farming right now on this chain. And what you really want to have is a long-term belief that the technology in the largest chain is only going to get better. It's only going to receive more venture capital. It's only going to attract more builders. And those who build will be even larger. What is actually my thesis here? My thesis is actually the earlier winners are even going to be larger than they were. Like the early BTC winners of protocol winners are going to be larger yield returns than what we saw on ETH. And the real reason for that is that much smaller user base, and you do have to be more technologically technologically competent, I guess you can say, to truly engage. And what do I mean by that? Well, all the L2s that are coming are going to be really interesting. And when we think about this here, a good example is going to be what Quantum Cats is doing here. Give me just a second and let me grab the link of that. Grab Cat VM, Quantum Cats. And this is going to be one of the other farming campaigns that I'm going to recommend each and every one of you. So when you're looking at this, right, when you look at Quantum Cats, what's really bullish about Quantum Cats here at the moment right now is the fact that they are a ordinal product tying themselves to L2. Chain tasks and off-chain tasks for you to complete at the moment in the form of their farming campaign. They're not calling it farming campaign, they're calling it quests. And to be very honest, all of you should be participating. And their current quest is live, and you have 6 hours to complete it. It's only open today. And what you need to do is that you need to go into their Discord, which is the Taproot Wizards Discord. Go down, and they'll show you the task for the current quest. And the current quest, there's a few small, little commands you have to run within the Discord. But specifically, they want you to post about CatVM, and they also want you to add BIP 420, right? to your Twitter username as well. And if you do this, you will start farming their first protocol here on what they're doing for yield. And again, these actions have had value. If you did these actions before, it increased your chance of getting a Quantum Cats whitelist, right? Which was very valuable. They've continued to reward people who do quests, right? You did the earlier Taproot Wizard quest. You might have been very lucky to get one of the few wizards, right, that came out at that time. Very, very small. But what essentially you see with Quantum Cats is they believe education is needed to really be able to be rewarded for the assets they're creating. And that's beautiful. That's why if you actually go into that tweet that I posted, they've even built a little storybook about Cat VM. It's a full PDF. You could go take it and you could go review that. And what I'd recommend is even if you've done none of the before, now is the perfect time to go take your Discord account, go into their Discord, and follow these quests immediately. It's a very easy thing to do because this is also a potential outlier of a bullish L2 play. There's some technical stuff here we could talk about on whether, how Cat's going to work, how they're kind of utilizing certain technology, and, inferences of tech from other really, really smart engineers in this market. But what is most bullish is that these guys actually have a competent vision of what an L2 is, right? Like literally they have a competent vision of fun too. They throw shade. They throw shade at Lightning Network. They throw shade at BitVM. They really are trying to build a very core thesis on where they're going to go, right? And because of this, right, it's one of those things that you want to give them credit as they continue. And I'm with you, Ink Chef, because I faded first because I wanted to get in teams and make videos in public, and I couldn't do all. I agree. I didn't want to take a shower on a video. Like, what the fuck? Like, but I'm now like a POA. I'm like, shit, I should have taken that shower, right? Like, I probably should have, right? Sadly for this. So now, what's the next best thing we can do? We should be starting the quest now. And there's a very competent strategy being introduced by these guys, right? And I think that's important as you guys look at it. And here, I'll share it on my screen. Is that this is a venture-backed team. These guys are legitimately a venture-backed team. They have raised venture capital. They've also secured a ton of capital from the mint, right? Like people forget they also got 10 million from that. They raised another 10 million, right? They're sitting on 25 million dollars of capital that to be able to deploy. They're one of the few with a real tier 1 investor, like a real VC, right? This isn't a small internal round or anything like that. You should be really bullish overall. They were a little bearish to start because they were slow. They're not doing any of the partnerships. They're not really focused on, collabs and stuff like that, which is very different. But what they are focused on is that they're focused on building an L2, and what their belief is, everyone who builds on their L2 is also going to reward Quantum Cat holders. So if there is a play in this market right now from an ordinal side, Quantum Cat seems to be one of the few that I'd even consider. But separately, it is another L2 opportunity for you guys to all start getting early on. And this is the other thing, is that it makes it a little bit harder to do because it requires you to be in the Discord. But that means that you're going to get more value if you complete that task today. And I recommend you guys to complete that task because it's easy. It's simple. And you could really be able to jump out into this and be early to their world. Because again, there's less than 10,000 people actually completing these tasks, right? And this is what I want you to understand, is that you're going to see these opportunities present quietly. They're quiet. They're not trying to do these super loud, right? Even the same way how Rune works, right? We're not trying to be loud about anything we're trying to do. Even for a little bit of insight, Rune is no publicly accessible. Rune is now going to slowly move into this kind of private structure where it'll be invite only as well, and you guys will get to invite people as you see fit. And the real reason for this is that you want to find the you want to put in the work. And that's what I think Quantum Cats is doing actually incredibly well. They are showing and identifying people who want to get into this opportunity and deploy. Santi asked, do you think the Cat VM can be here? I mean, they're going to test that in 2 days. Like they're going to Signet in 2 days. Let's be more specific here. It's not testnet, slightly different version, but again, it is Signet. No cost to be able to interact on it, assuming they don't need any staking functions here as well. But their advantages here is that they probably have the most capital, most technology partners, and venture backing, and OG crypto community support. How would they not be the first to get their proposals through? Right? That's kind of where you could see this thing being potentially really bullish here as well. Right? And this is going to be important as you see their ecosystem and everything kind of play out. Clearly, it makes sense. These guys hit the check marks on multiple fronts. You should be doing this. In order to do the task there really quickly, what you need to do is you need to go and check out their announcements page. That's where they have all the details here. I'm jumping into the Taproot Wizards thread here. Well, it just says the last few weeks have been a move. We released the Cat VM Children's Book. Did you read it? Received their BIP number, and now get ready for mission 3.420. Don't forget to send your submission on Monday. If you didn't prepare yet, you still have this weekend, so it might be closed if you haven't got the OP Cat Cadet role. And if you can, you then go to Launchpad. It's their little Launchpad, and there's a OP Cat Cadet link that you need to click, and you'll get the OP Cat Cadet role. I know I'm kind of going through this a little fast, but this is the link. Let me bring this in chat. This is where you want to go. This is the Taproot Wizards Launchpad. Once you go to the Launchpad, you click the OP Cadet role there. It will give you the role. It now means you've signed up for that. Once you do that, the next thing you need to do is go to and go study the assignment. And if you don't have access to it, shit, I realize some of you may not have access to the assignment. It might have just closed. I'll have to see if I can get an extra link, but it looks like the assignment here may have closed for you already, unfortunately. So some of you may not be able to do this campaign at the moment right now. Oh, that sucks. It looks like they just closed it up here as well. No, we got it. This here. Apologies. Looks like it closed up over the weekend. So, but again, stay close to this. Regardless whether or not you get into this action, stay in their Discord. There's going to be plenty more of these actions coming in relatively quickly. But this is where you have to be absolutely early to these protocols, early in these Discords, early in engaging here as well. So, you could hopefully be able to do some of these actions and tasks here, but realize it's not a opportunity. Zion says, I think part 3 is still open. Let me see if I can click around. Let me just quickly check for you guys, because it'd be a no-brainer to get you guys in on this. So if you follow the instructions and you got the role, are you able to see the next assignment? That's the question for whoever says it. So you go to Launchpad, you get the OP Cat role. It added the role to me, so I have the role. I then can see announcements, and then it should show, oh yeah, it does show mission control. It works. Mission control, mission brief, part 3. Oh, it does work. Uh-huh. Sorry, guys. I've lied to you. It works for me too. Here's that link. After you get the OP Cadet role, you should have access. So I wasn't losing my mind. That's good. Always good for you guys to know that I'm not totally insane. And then when you go into that, it will tell you all the actions you need. Part 3, we're celebrating the release of our first children's book, Cat VM. Select a page from the book that particularly resonates with you. Write a Twitter thread about that page and post it along with the illustration. Your thread should cover why you picked that particular page and what it means to you in Bitcoin. For example, I could write about how the Merkle Tree Forest was meaningful to me because it spurred me to learn more about Merkle Tree. You'll post your part 3 thread during the submission window below. And that submission window is now until 6 p.m. Pacific, so that's 5 hours from now. You have to get it into the next 5 hours, right? Which is important. The other thing is that show your support for BIP 420 today. Your task is to add and you're adding the specific user Twitter name, bit dash 420 with the cat emoji. Um, and you could add that. And then separately, you submit it, you post your content on Twitter, and then what you do is you go to the airwaves, um, the airwave channel. It's their Twitter airwave channel, and they have a slash command with the ad for submit mission, and you show your tweet and your details there, and you post your Twitter link. Once you do that, you'll confirm this. So it's a very simple action. Read the little cat VM PDF. It literally takes 15 minutes, super easy. And then all you have to do is choose a page, tweet it, and then create a thread via literally AI. Be like, oh, tell me more about Merkle Tree, and write in, I really like learning about Merkle. Or, hey, I did more research on BitVM and these were the weaknesses I found. Or, hey, I learned a little bit more Lightning and I can't believe the Lightning Network is only used for payments with the multi-sig signatures. This seems really weak. You realize AI will do all of this, right? AI will literally do all of this for you guys, right? And that's kind of like an important thing, is that it's so simple to do, right? And this is where you need to start pushing through on this work, right? Like, this is where people fade the easiest wealth because they're not doing with actions. And the best part is literally you can do this with just one account for now. You don't have to worry about this yet, right? But like, you gotta just absolutely be willing to be first movers when most of the market isn't paying attention to this stuff, right? And if you're an actual real user, you're actually listening to this conversation and you're actually writing in chat, congratulations. You're more real than 99% of users here in crypto. And that's exactly the type of user Quantum Cats wants right now. Go to Quantum Cats and do this action. You have 5 hours to do it. It is the easiest way to play this out, right? If you could actually spend time optimizing for the right L2s, you're going to do really well. And then beyond that, right, you're going to be able to be set to potentially get part of their airdrop. We don't even know yet, right? We have no clue. But this is bullish because they're venture backed. They're telling you they're building an L2. They're already giving you quests to engage, and they're clearly looking to deploy this in 2 days. They go launch. I'm pretty sure if you do this, you're going to be one of the few people who will get access to Signet first. And this is the way that they're going to be able to bots, because it won't be anyone can maybe use the network. Or they're going to give you a bonus of a free mint on their Signet network. There are so many ways you can do this, right? And this is the other challenge here, is that you have to be willing to be speculative on what needs to be done, right? Like, you're going to absolutely need to feel speculative of like, hey, these guys keep rewarding people who complete these quests. Why would I not do this, considering their venture back, have the highest floor price of any PFP asset over 1,000 supply? How is this not the easiest bet? This is so easy, right? This is so easy. There's no airdrop here, Steph. There's nothing. We don't know what this is. We know nothing. We are farming actions for the sake of farming actions on smart builders with the hopes that they will give us dividend. That is what farming is. This is all speculation, people. No one's going to tell you you're getting a hard drop. This doesn't work like this. This is why most of you will struggle being a farmer, because you expect X for Y. This is not how it's going to work. We're going to do X for a magical number that can be 0 to a billion. We have no clue what we're going to get. And most of these things are going to rug us and not be worth it. But I am absolutely betting on venture-backed teams, truly technical teams, right? And teams with a meaningful market and audience, right? And if you can do that, you can succeed and you can win. But you can't be helpless, right? And that's the other challenge here, right? Is that if you can't, like, even like, like, people are asking for a Twitter link. If you cannot go to Quantum Cats or Taproot Wizards Discord on your own, you are struggling, right? You are going to struggle in this market. If you cannot do the basic actions of being able to get it in the Discord without someone spoon feeding it to you each time, you will suck at playing this game. Because being a farmer, no one's going to handhold each step of the way. We'll give you the infrastructure, but it will be a grind. Something will, you'll run into some problem. You'll run into some OS issue. You'll run into some wallet issue. You're going to run into some problem no matter what. But if you aren't going to put in the time to clear those hurdles, you will absolutely hate your life as a farmer. So the thing that you have to train as a farmer as you think about this is that you're just going to absolutely need to eat shit. You have to go through each of the trials and understand how to set it up. But here's the best thing about being a farmer. Once you go through that first cycle and get through that shit, it becomes easy. It becomes super easy. Moda swap is super easy. I don't even get frustrated when Moda swap is down anymore. Right? I'm just like, hey, it's down. I don't have to do anything. No one else is progressing. Cool. As soon as the Moda swap is up, great. I'll put in my hour here. I have availability. I'm going to knock it out. And there should be no excuses. I currently have 45 wallets above 150 points on Moda swap. Right? Like, I am running it. And I'm not even that bullish that Moda swap is going to be right, but it's that easy to do. It really is. And you can absolutely knock this shit out, right? In this kind of scenario where it can be really, really bullish here. Right. And this is what I'm now trying to do is I'm trying to find more of these opportunities that are worth farming, right? That are worth potentially being some speculative yield. But I have no clue. This is the other thing. Like, this is all kind of like magic right now. Right? We don't even know what the fuck we're planting half the time with these yields. So we don't even know how long it's going to take for the yield to actually be fully ripe and being able to be, taken and pay that dividend. We don't even know, right, if what's the right amount of water and sunlight that is needed for each of these things. Right? Like, I think what you want to see and what you probably want to recognize deeply here is that everything is an unknown, but your best bet is to be an intelligent farmer who actually understands the tech and understands the ecosystem to create your yield, right? To create your farm of whatever seeds you planted. So for me, I've been taking like a quarter of my farmers right now Modos. Over time, that won't be the case, right? Over time, I'm going to see more. Right, Quantum Cats, if I actually was able to multi-wallet and I had multi-discords here, I would be doing this. If you have multi-discords, multi-Twitter accounts right now, you should use every one of those and put them into Quantum Cats. Right? Break them up in the time windows here for the next 3 hours, do a few different posts here at the moment right now. But why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you showcase this? And that's the other thing you'll want to realize in the here as well. Is that some of these farmings will require you to create multiple profiles too. I'm not saying you need to do that yet, but recognize it is going to be smart to have 2 or 3 Twitter profiles, 2 or 3 Discords, 2 or 3 of these other elements here as well. I don't care if you have alt accounts anymore. It doesn't really even matter for the world in a way that the Rune server is built, which is great. And that's why Rune server is also like going to be more invite only now as you kind of see us move to the next level. But what you're going to see is that I don't care about your alts here. If anything, I'm telling you, build alts. Build as many alts as you can, right? Buy certain alt accounts at this point because it's the game. It's the game that everyone else is setting up. These guys don't care. They don't care how many of your accounts are real or not, as long as you can prove and showcase they're a standalone user interacting with their platform. Increase their value by testing their network with those accounts, by potentially staking assets with those accounts and reinforcing the value of the network, right? By bringing marketing and awareness, by you posting about it on your profiles here as well, right? You're offering value for each account, right? And you're boosting their metrics as well. So there is a kind of very interesting, kind of parasite-like relationship here. But the honest truth is they're all providing it to us, right? And that's kind of the other interesting thing here, right? Is that everyone is generally starting to recognize that protocols and airdrop farming is going to absolutely be the play on Bitcoin. And here's the best thing about runes coming in as poorly as it did. It just scared 90% of your competition away. It just did. It just scared 90% of your competition this first wave. And I promise you, as soon as that first airdrop hits out of nowhere, that ends up giving, mini gen wealth to people, these people will all flock back and they're going to be 6 months behind. They're absolutely going to be 6 months behind. And that's your advantage now. Keep going after these protocols and being early here, and you could actually have a huge advantage because all these other people were only chasing the first big win, right? And then they'll come into the market, right? They're actually chasing the second win realistically. What we are all collectively trying to do is we're trying to be that first era win, right? That first era win when we go back to this. I want to win these 2 first years. That's what Ronin is set up for us to do, to start. Really, we're here to set up this first year for you. You're going to actually see a few different partnerships come out here shortly where we're going to extend more tools and features to you guys to even be more informed, because we believe this intersection of crypto and AI is going to be really fascinating. So you want to keep an eye out on that. But here's the real alpha that you want to understand is that protocols are coming to Bitcoin. Protocols will use airdrops and farming incentives or quest incentives to give real large yield. On average, those yields are between 5 to 15% of the total tokens being distributed for those protocols. So if you use an average number, 5 to 7.5%, something within that range, and you can then estimate how much you think the market cap of Bitcoin infrastructure will grow from here, or how much new Bitcoin infrastructure is going to be created. If you think it's 100 billion, you could times that by 5%, and you already have an output of how much will be airdropped, right? On 100 billion, that still means 5 billion is going to be airdropped, right? On a 5% scenario. That's a lot of money being airdropped regardless, right? And that's on the lower end. If you believe the comp is going to be somewhere closer to ETH, right, in regard to the infrastructure growth that it experienced during these eras, you're actually looking at something around 500 billion, which means 25 to 30 billion dollars of airdrop value at a minimum. That is what a lot of people are thinking. That is where this gets bullish. And why wouldn't we think that, right? When we look at the first 3 years gave us 21 billion on ETH. I'd be surprised if the number on Bitcoin is smaller than that 21 billion in the first 3 years of airdrop. I currently estimate, not financial advice, but our current estimations is that we actually believe that there will be something close to around 35 to 50 billion dollars worth of airdrops in the first 3 years of Bitcoin starting from here. In the next 3 years. We believe it's going to be that large of infrastructure value, and it's primarily based off the conviction of the total market cap size of Bitcoin. To be very honest, there are models that say that number could hit even $100 billion airdrop in the first 3 years. But we view it a little bit smaller than that. We view it around 35 to realistically 45 billion. I know I said 50, but that is the kind of the core range. And that's a shit ton of airdrops. That is a shit ton of value coming. And I believe if you start now and you start seasoning these wallets, and right now you guys have only started really seasoning testnet wallets, right? What we're going to talk about tomorrow is seasoning mainnet wallets, right? Mainnet wallets are also a whole nother game. Cannot have any interactions tying them to one another. Right now, we just did easy testnet wallets to kind of move the game. But moving forward, here's the number one thing you should all be doing. You should be getting $1,000 of liquidity if you can offer it, right? Or $500 of liquidity, and sending $100 worth of BTC right, to all of these unique standalone wallets from a centralized exchange. And you should be sending them at odd hours. You don't send them all 10 at the same time. You send them slightly at different hours. Fund those wallets completely separately. Allow those wallets to buy a couple of assets there on low fee times and allow that, potentially to be used for potential staking protocols in the future. And then you should have a little bit of your liquidity saved. And in my case, I am saving 25% of my ordinal and Rune liquidity from this current market and setting that aside to purely fund mainnet farms, right? And with mainnet farms, that means that it's really setting up, the ability to do swaps on new protocols, right? I need money. I need size on that. The good thing is you're not losing that much because you're just paying for the fees of the transaction. But you could swap them back and forth and you're just trying to get swap volume up. Why is swap volume important? Because that's how a few of these airdrops are also qualified. And we'll talk about this even more in detail, but like here's a good example, right? I'll drop the screenshot here as well. Liquid gas, 100 to 200 per wallet for mainnet farming, but it is enough to start, right? It's fine to have that because it shows that you're a real user history, right? Then later, as you do bring on more liquidity, onboard that liquidity through a centralized exchange, right, onto these wallets, and probably a couple of these wallets will end up having maybe 1,000 to 5,000 in them, right? You'll have a few main wallets, and then you'll have a few tier 2 wallets that will have between 200 to 500. But what do we really want, right? We want transaction history. We want some real volume and see, because that's the other real great thing is that they'll just do checks like, was there ever any real BTC in this wallet? Did they ever do a transaction? What's the total amount of volume of transactions they've done? That's kind of what you want to really be able to pull. And the real reason why you want this is that you can post it here. You could see how these projects qualified their airdrops and what actions you had to look at. So these are some of the biggest airdrops, right? Arbitrum, Optimism, Uniswap, Blur, and ENS. You can see what type of project types they were. A few were L2s. One was a swap protocol, it's a DEX. One was an NFT marketplace. One was an identity, right? And you can see these all kind of happened over the last 3 to 4 years, right? All kind of different ones. And you can see some cared about bridging funds, some cared about bridging volume, some cared about transaction count, some cared about transaction volume, some cared about your taker action, some cared about your maker action, some cared about NFT ownership, some cared about DAO participation, some cared about social promotion, some cared about competitor interaction, right? The idea here is realizing that, and competitor lack of interaction is a good example here as well. So Blur gave you more points if you didn't sell on other networks, right? They had a loyalty score here as well. So the reason why you want to look at this, right, is that you want to realize you need to be able to become to doing all of these actions, right? So if you have more funds, you could bridge more funds, right? You could bridge more volume. You could do more swap volume. And that's actually what you're really doing, right? When you're doing a lot of these campaigns, right? Is that, to be very honest, if you're smart, as soon as a swap protocol opens up, whatever the swap protocol is, go, like, as long as they haven't done a token yet or any distribution of that, go put as much liquidity as you can onto that network on day one and do swaps. Like, I don't care if you're just swapping it back and forth between some stable coins or tokens that effectively serve as stable coins. All you're trying to do is run up volume. It doesn't matter what it actually is. So, like, whenever a new swap protocol comes, I do put like 5K to 10K on it within my liquidity budget that I had at that time. And I'm just swapping back and forth on a few ones. And I do it for like 2 to 3 weeks. And I make sure that I usually clear like their tier 1 volume threshold. Sometimes they'll say it, sometimes they won't. You'll need to pay attention to their Discords or their Twitter tweet campaigns. But that's where the whale games do come in, right? You could play that, but you're not really losing money. You're showcasing size, right? That's all you're doing. You're propping size up, but you're not really trying to make large size lock-in plays. And of course, that's also where the dolphin plays come in, is that some of these will require you to lock up 500 to 1,000 to $2,500. So this is where you'll also want to be smart which one of those are worth doing it here as well, right? you can absolutely make this a huge opportunity here, but you need to spend that time. Sergey was saying, like, yeah, but what if you have, of course, you could transfer your 100K between the wallets through centralized exchanges, but it's super time consuming. You're absolutely right. It's super time consuming. That's why you have to start it now. You need to start adding. What you should be doing if you're really playing this game right is like every week you're adding some amount of new wallets that you're seasoning up starting from zero, right? So it's like, okay, this week I started with 10 wallets. Next week I'll add in another 2 wallets. And every week I'm just adding in 2 wallets, and they're kind of getting in slightly different times, slightly different histories, slightly different interactions they have. And that's what you should be doing. And then what you'll realize after 3 months, you're up to 100 wallets or whatever that number may be, right? That you're aiming for. But you need to play it in that type of game. It is a lot to manage, right? And when I say 100 wallets, that's way too much. Like 100 wallets are like legit pros that are playing this game full time. They're putting 40 to 60 hours a week. For most of us, honestly, it's like 2 to 5 wallets. That's the game. Really, 3 to 5 wallets is going to be the game for most of us here, right? And 3 to 5 wallets is what you want to manage. And then and that's what I think 80% of you will fall into. And then like 19% of you will be probably between 5 to 15 wallets, somewhere around that you're managing. And then 1% of you will be 15 wallets or more, right? That's really kind of what it is. And this is kind of what you want to realize as this market scales. The biggest opportunity is just getting as many different seeds that you have conviction on and planting them in your farm, right? So like the way I look at, say, Quantum Cats that came out right now, right? Like I view Quantum Cats as like the one beautiful orchard tree that will be in my garden. I probably am not going to farm 10 or 20 of these because it requires a lot of accounts and management, but I believe it's that one beautiful tree that could maybe create its own ecosystem below it, right? So with that, I'm going to try for as many multiple Twitter accounts or Discord accounts I have. I'll probably do this 2 or 3 times if I have that availability on that. But for pretty much everything else that doesn't require social identity, which is great, many of them do not, right? I'm going to try doing 10 to 20 wallets on those. Why do I love MotoSwap? MotoSwap is super clean, super simple, no cost, and same actions over and over again. That is the easiest thing to farm. It's one of the simplest ones to get ready. Even though I know it's a burden for all of you, it's great because to any Twitter accounts or Discord account or any other bullshit. It is straight up understanding how swap protocols work, right? Which I think is going to be really, really important here as well. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Apo is right. You're going to keep a large insight on scams. I mean, scam links come every single time. That's the thing. You don't want to rush through anything. And that's what this community is. It's now going to be your trusted resource. When you see a play, drop a link here. Ask us, is this legit? Right? What do you need? Like, we can figure this out and we can solve it and we can make sure that we're pointing you in the right direction. There's great community members here. And that's the other great thing. This is a community based project. Although there might be content being created from us at the parent level, it is purely created for you guys to keep self supporting one another, which I think is really, really. So, what you want to recognize is that everything is about to open up, and you want to start building your conviction bets as you see new protocols come. So if you can do this, it will allow you to unlock a ton more value, but you have to be committed. You have to be committed for the next 6 to 12 months. That's all it really plays out to. And if you're committed for 6 to 12 months and you spend 10 hours a week doing this for the next 6 to 12 months, you will make 6 figures from this. There's no doubt about it. You will make 6 figures. The numbers already line up, and that's on the low end of this if you're this correct, right? You do this for the next 6 to 12 months, this absolutely will be airdropping you 6 figures along the way. And there's going to be massive winners, right? And here's the best part. We're actually degenerate enough where we're talking about pretty much every play pretty early, right? That's the other beauty about this community is that we have people from all different backgrounds. I mean, we have a bunch of quantum cat holders here who are discussing this. We have a bunch of, OMB holders. We have a bunch of, all these other blue chip holders we have a bunch of microcap holders, we have a bunch of runestone holders. You're going to get insights here very quickly, right? And because of that, you're going to be in a very, very good spot. Prof J puts a pretty nice, simple L2 farming strategy. Find a borrow lending platform, leave collateral, borrow against it, not too much. Leave some of that funds for stable liquidity pool. Take some to swap with daily, weekly. Just find the dApps and rinse and repeat. He's absolutely right. Right. And I think this is kind of where it is. This is going to be probably really, really bullish here as you kind of find these different ways of understanding your liquidity and rotating it correctly. And you're technically double dipping, right? Prof J's actual farming strategy is find a borrow lending platform that also gives you incentivized points for borrowing and lending from it too, and then leave collateral there so that he's able to win on both sides, right? He's then able to leverage his collateral into other plays while farming and getting yield off that collateral on that platform there as well, and hopefully for some LP upside too. So that's kind of like the beauty here, right? Is that if you do all of this, you could actually start scaling quite a bit, and all of Bitcoin is up for grabs. That's probably the most bullish thing I can let you know. Every L2 could be the billion L2 at this point, right? Everything is going to be pretty insane at this point. Everyone is going to open up these opportunities, and we just want to make sure we're one of the first 10,000 to be there. That's our goal. This whole community, if you're active here, our goal is to help you become the first 10,000 users on 100 protocols. That's what you're trying to do here. To be very honest, our number is we're trying to get you to be the first 10,000 users on the first 21 protocols. That's kind of what the Rune journey is. We're trying to get you to 21 protocols to start. We're going to give you all the fundamental trading on that here as well. And because of this, right, you're going to have a huge amount of upside here if you make these moves relatively quickly, correctly, and with long-term intent. And that's probably the biggest alpha we'll close out here in this conversation. I don't even care about daily charts on anything right now. Like literally, I don't even check Bitcoin. I don't even check ETH. I'm not even checking these runes on a daily basis. I'm not. Right? Like I'll check here just to see what's going on, just for insights. It's more honestly to have knowledge to share with you guys. But all my bets are long term. The only thing I'm checking maybe on a daily basis is when Binance. That's it. Like that's all I want. I want Binance just to tweet. That's all I'm checking. I want that desperate, stupid announcement of, oh, we're coming to bringing these 5 runes along first batch. Here's our stupid pre-farm campaign. Come do it. That's what I want. That's what I want from Binance. It's the only thing I care about. Because everything else I'm positioned for is very long term, right? And this is why I'm hoping to build on sub 10 runes. I'm hoping to continue to accumulate in that way. But like I said, it's just a progress. Make your step. I know for a lot of you might hear 10 wallets, 100 wallets. That seems daunting. Just fucking get to 2 farming wallets. That's all you need to do. Congratulations. You're ahead of 99% of people in this market. You get to 5 wallets, you're ahead of 99.9% of people. You get to 10 wallets, you're ahead of 99.9% of people. But you don't have to overthink it. Just get to your second wallet and you've now doubled your potential yield for engaging on these protocols. But the other thing you want to shift in your mind here, right? And the biggest alpha is become a student of Bitcoin, right? This is the last thing I actually tweeted out from Udi. And also shout out to Prof J because he's the one who actually had it tweeted that I retweeted it off of. And let me see if I can find that tweet again. And I'm going to read this, and this is how we're going to close it here in our conversation. And this is, the great thing is he posted this like a month ago. And this is why I love Udi. Udi is a baller in every way. One sec. There we go. Okay. I'll put the tweet up. Okay. So we're going to read this. Listen to this. Just listen to this openly. And I think someone just listen. So this is from Udi Worthwhile. Study Bitcoin being held back for years by bloggers and podcasters. Study legendary devs calling it quits and nobody taking their place. Study the decimation of all technical Bitcoin conferences and their replacement with religious ceremonies in Miami. Study everyone bridging to Ethereum because there's nothing to do on Bitcoin. Study podcasters shilling BlockFi links and bankrupting their listeners. Study Michael Saylor telling his disciples to mortgage their house to buy Bitcoin at the Pico top. Study Rodimer coming back to save us at the depths of the bear. Study the rise of a new use case for Bitcoin for the first time in a decade. Study Bitcoin Season 2. Study the Orange Tsunami. Study new heights of activity on the mother chain while everyone else is distracted by friend tech. Study luxury goods on the luxury chain. Study unprecedented demand for new functionality. Study podcasters losing their grip on the narrative. Study mining pools and builders begging for a solution for two-way pegs. Study ordinal enjoyers taking over Bitcoin development. Study OPCat. Study Andrew Polstra, the last standing legendary Bitcoin dev, going on stage and saying that OPCat is the future. Study upgrading Bitcoin. Study getting pegged. Study liquidity pools in Bitcoin. Study decentralized lending. Study unlocking $1 trillion of liquidity. Study Ethereum projects closing up shop and moving to Bitcoin. Study trustless cat bridges to Solana and back. Study the Sky OP Cat Casino. Study ancient Bitcoin whales cat activating their cold storage BTC. Study Asia cat staking. Study your children won't understand how Bitcoin ever functioned without OP Cat. Study nothing ever being the same ever again. Study OP Cat Supercycle. Study Rodimer saved us. Study making Bitcoin magical again. Lesson in there. This honestly is one of the best posts of noting the true culture of ordinals. This is actually where I've gotten so much more bullish on Udi, because I was bearish initially because they didn't really seem to want to engage in the near-term meta of collabs and partnerships, that kind of stuff, right, for their holders. But what you see is Udi is playing a much bigger game. And he's sharing you all the other insights he's learning. And he's telling you where to study. He's telling you the terminology. And this is the realest alpha yet. Become a student of Bitcoin. Become a student of this technology. Become a student of the technical protocols. And I'm not saying that you need to deliver code, but you should actually understand the commands that are actually happening within the Bitcoin infrastructure. What do you mean by OP_cat? What does that mean? What does that action and command line return and yield? Understanding this stuff is so important because, again, you become a native speaker. You become a true citizen. Study to become a Bitcoin citizen. The more of a native Bitcoin citizen you become, the more natural all these actions are going to feel. The easier this farming is going to become, and the more conviction you'll be able to build on where you want to stack, right? Farming is just game number one, right? Right? And the easiest game right now is just farm everything, right? To a certain extent. But what is the real bullish use case of becoming a farmer is becoming an intelligent farmer where you bet with your yield. And what I mean by that is that it's one thing to farm and let's say you get these magical quantum cat tree comes and the airdrop is worth whatever, you get $25,000, this fake number, right? That's one game. The next game is, do I hold or sell? And this is where it is. Do I hold, sell, or accumulate more? That's where the real alpha starts becoming. Because that's where you want to be able to know, do I hold when I hit tops or am I selling when this is the top, right? And this is the bigger challenge here of where you're going to make way more value, right? Depending on where you exited ApeCoin, your story is very different. Anyone who's actually long-term bag holding ApeCoin is the most depressed person you'll meet. For me, I was very lucky. I sold Ape near Pico top. I sold around $20, right? I knew it was going to have an instant pump. There's no way that pump was going to hold. But for me, ApeCoin's been amazing because I only had a great early entry and exit from that, right? And from that, I had max returns. But for those who had any bit of short-term conviction only, they missed out on a greater 4x, 5x return. And anyone who had slightly long-term conviction is unfortunately underwater relatively quickly, right? And this is kind of important to kind of recognize a lot of these challenges are pretty bullish. And that's the crazy thing, Q, is that I bought no other side. I faded other side completely. So I was pure profit on ApeCoin there because I only went on the coin side and used none of it actually to participate in the other side mint or anything else like that, which was, yeah, thankfully a very bullish move, and played out well. But I'm just saying that's one of my outcomes. There's numerous cases that I've fumbled the bag, etc. Right? It's always great to cherry pick the times where it played out. But I share this with you guys because that's also the alpha of becoming these power users. You're actually learning this stuff. Like if you don't, like go read that Quantum Cat little book that they create on Cat VM. It is not a children's book. It's children's book art with some pretty deeply technical stuff. But it starts opening up the conversation for you of what is it? What are they building? What are the differences between this and the Lightning Network or BitVM? Why is that actually there? It's really, really bullish. And you could go grab this directly here, and I'll drop it for you as well. Oops, let me go to Quantum Cats. And we'll grab this link here, and it's just this little catvm.org, catvm.pdf right here. Oh, yeah, Pistol Beat already beat me to it. His is even a better link. And then the cool thing as well is that when you go to this, we'll open up to this PDF. It's this little story, really cute. It's their version of a paper, right? For what CatVM is, pretty meaningful to actually read this. And then you can't actually go to the website. So if you go to catvm.org, it keeps kicking you here. So there is no website here outside of this. But read this, take a post. You currently have 4.5 hours remaining to make a post about this and claim this task. Very easy to do. I promise you. You could literally go grab and like copy paste some of this stuff. Oh, I guess it's pure images, so you can't easily copy paste. But you could write it. It's a Merkle tree forest they talk about. They talk about Young Rijendale, a dev. They also talk about a few other devs. So like you could go up here and be like, where are the devs they talked about? Here we go, right? One is Archmage Polstra, right? This is a specific dev who specifically introduced OP Cat. So definitely like, oh, I learned more about it, understood about it. Again, you could put this all in ChatGPT and get a good, and just say, ChatGPT, tell me about this guy. Tell me why he's interested. Tell me why what was his contribution to OP Cat. And if you have at least a paid subscription, you should be able to get a lot of that information, right? And then by doing that, get all that information and be like, okay, I now need to write a thread that shares information about this guy. Can you write 5 tweets that talk about why he's important, why this could impact other L2s in the future, and then a sentence on why it was amazing to read about CatVM to get introduced to this person. You literally just do that. Congratulations, you've got all of your stuff, right? It's not that hard. Tone Wolf has already done his post while we've been on this call, right? Add BIP420 to your name, and then go complete that quest. Guys, we are literally pointing you to the best magical seeds of Bitcoin. That's what we're trying to do here. Go find these seeds, plant these seeds, become a fucking farmer. This is the easiest way for your gen wealth, but it's also the easiest way to understand the technology opportunity. You understand this stuff as a user, you're going to become such a better trader of these tokens in the future. You absolutely will. You'll have way more advantages than everyone else. This all compounds. Imagine if someone told you that if you just spent 1 year of your high school learning this shit, you'll be able to capture gen wealth. That's what this is. Spend a little bit of time learning. Actually go back to it. Don't fall into this arrested development. Don't stop trying to put in work. This is pure tech that is coming at you in the form of memes. If you actually understand the fundamental tech, you'll be better able to understand which catch. And you're going to make a ton of value too. So with that all, you can see there's plenty of opportunity. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about more farming opportunities. I'm going to show you the landscape. We'll talk to you about how you want to set up mainnet wallets. And we're also going to walk into Zulu and we're going to review another new testnet campaign. And then hopefully on Wednesday or Thursday, we will talk about the Signet campaign coming from Quantum Cats and understand what needs to be done there. We don't even know if there's a campaign. I'm just making it up right now. I hope there's some campaign, but we do know their Signet testnet is coming out, right? Here in a couple of days. We'll want to be ready for that too. There's going to be more opportunity. There's already a bunch of other L2s. Talk to Prof J. Talk to any of us here in the chat. Ping us about anything else. If you need something to farm, just ask us. What can I farm? And then hopefully in a few weeks, you're going to see a tool that will make it even easier for you to ask those questions and get those answers back. So a lot of cool things coming in. But it is straight simple here. Spend your time. Go out here. Go actually realize what tech is being built. Pretend, right? Pretend that you even care about the tech is good enough for me. But maybe a few of you will actually fall in love with some of these technical conversations, and it will become an advantage, and you will stack way faster than everyone else out there. So with that all, we're gonna let you go. Hopefully you guys can make some progress here on some of these upcoming farms. Hopefully you guys are continuing to expand your wallets. Hopefully you're getting a little bit of Moto Swap here and there. Hopefully you even looked at a few Zulu already, BitVM or BounceBit or any of the other ones. But right now there's going to be more and more opportunities coming. Should hopefully be bullish for all of us and will continue to stack our sats. So with that, guys, I hope you continue to have a wonderful day, or if it's Tuesday in your world, enjoy it, and hopefully we'll catch you on some of these next calls. With that, we'll let you go. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye now.